in Huntington, New York. It's Sports Talk New York with your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Cardboard Memories, Clearview, Long Island, the law firm of Decolator, Cohen, and DePrisco, the Phoenix Tube Company, PIMS Incorporated, fueling brand performance for 30 years, Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, and Soho Table Hockey. Here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday evening to you, Mark Roseman, AJ Carter, socially distant here in the Launchpad studio.
Actually, I don't have my tape measure. I think this is less than 6 feet, but hey, we've all been vaccinated.
I thought it was now 3 feet. You know, if you've been vaccinated, isn't it 3?
Vaccinated, you can stay in
You
a
just
room,
want to be
you're
as far away from me as possible.
If I wanted to be that way, I would have stayed in Florida.
That's true. Well, no, you got tired of Florida. I know
I came back and it was cold.
Yeah.
I said, let's go back to Florida.
But if you were in Florida, you would have already had your dinner and you'd be in bed by now.
No. We the one thing we never did is early bird specials.
No early birds?
No, it's easy to get in restaurants if you want to eat after 6 o'clock.
All right. It's time now for the Major League Baseball Report with John Coppinger, sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stamell, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs. He's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty and integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. He buys his every piece of autographed memorabilia directly from the source. Cardboard Memories also specializes in custom framing. They also are always buying collections large and small. Let Cardboard Memories run your next charity fundraising event. Call them to find out how they can help your organization at no cost. Cardboard Memories, located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York. Visit them on the web, cardboardmemories.com, or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. Subbing for John Coppinger tonight with the Major League Baseball Report is Donnie Stevenson. Hey, Donnie, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
We're doing good, John.
I am everybody and nobody at the same time.
It's unbelievable. Listen, you know what? You got to give them credit. They had not played well. They hadn't hit. They hadn't fielded. The only thing that really held up was their pitching. But they kept a sense of humor, which I think it is somewhat important. What do you make of?
I take 3 hits instead of a sense of humor. Just realize that. But 3 hits for the man in scoring position.
I agree. But what do you make of the whole Donnie Stevenson post-game press conference yesterday?
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it's obviously some sort of inside joke that we've all kind of sort of been let in on. If this helps the Mets come together and relax, because it's obvious that they've all been pressing. It's obvious that when they get in the big spots, they press, and they haven't really been hitting a lot. So they're doing what they can to kind of get themselves loose and get themselves going. And if that there's too much talent on this team and in that lineup for them to hit like that forever. And if something like this is the spark, then God bless them. I mean, listen, they paid Todd Frazier $20 million to do what Donnie Stevenson is doing for free. So whatever works.
I think actually that it might actually be an alias for Jed Lowry. But we won't even go there.
Right. So
here's the interesting thing. We sat here, we talked about it. We talked about, what the Mets' Achilles heel was going to be, and we said it was going to be the bullpen. Meanwhile, the bullpen and the pitching has held up unbelievably, other than like one hiccup along the way. And it's the hitting. You take a look at what these, players have been doing with batters in scoring position. They just seem so tight. Maybe this Donnie Stevenson is just the medicine they needed. But, the one thing we talked about last week was Lindor. Obviously, he hasn't righted himself yet. They're coming home soon. If he doesn't right himself on this road trip, things could get ugly early, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And Lindor is the definition of the Mets pressing woes. I mean, you saw him take a 3-0 pitch and try to drive an outside pitch over the wall, and it was a lazy fly to center field. It's at-bats like that I think are really showing that Lindor is pressing. And the thing about Lindor, when you listen to him speak, he's not one of these guys that say, oh, well, my process is good. I can't worry about results. If the process is good, the results will come. This is a guy who understands that this is a results-driven business, that if you don't produce results, then you're going to get booed, and that you should be booed. And I think somebody like that might be more prone to pressing, especially after switching leagues. Let's remember, Edwin Diaz switched leagues and struggled. Carlos Beltran switched leagues and struggled. This isn't. It's disheartening in a way, but it's not really surprising to see. Hopefully Lindor picks it up. But again, remember, he's switching leagues and he's pressing. So that this could last a little bit longer.
But it's not just Lindor. And it has to raise a question, is it Chili Davis? And is it the approach? You take a look, they're still trying to do it. As you say, Lindor trying to drive the ball instead of doing the little things. Where is a hitting coach to say, okay, this is not working. Let's start playing a slightly different type of ball. Let's start trying to hit to the other field. Let's start trying to advance the runner. They're not doing those types of things. And that's where, the question is it the manager? Is it the hitting coach? Someone's going to come in and say, this isn't working. We have to try a different approach.
But in defense of Chile, 2 years ago when he was here, not virtual, that's what the Mets were doing. Conforto was, hitting balls to the opposite field. They were advancing runners.
Then where is he? Why aren't they doing it now?
It is still early. I mean, John, what's your theory?
I was about to say the same thing, that Chili Davis came in 2 years ago, 2019, and took over a team that was trying to hit everything over the fence and trying to pull everything. And they started going the opposite field. And they had their best offensive season in a while. Right. So I think it's kind of unfair to say, all right, it's Chili's fault that he's got that he has to turn this around or he's going to get fired after a month.
And
I don't think that
hitting is down across the entire Major League Baseball.
That's a very different story. Right. They tried to do something to get offense back in the game, and it's had the opposite effect.
Exactly.
I mean, they have to have.
I think once Lindor stops pressing, and then once he gets some hits and he gets some big hits, I think everybody's going to relax, and I think it's going to have a ripple effect along the lineup. And that's not to put pressure on Lindor to say he's got to do it. I think if any of them do it, then it'll have that effect. But Lindor, especially, since he's the linchpin of the team now.
Let's move over to the other side of town, the New York Yankees. It's interesting. I think the scheduled gods were very good to the Yankees. I think the way this road trip and then against the Tigers, I think they might have found their footing, but there are still really some key areas of concern. And the two of them, one of which is Clinton Frazier. He's now 26 years old, and I don't think it's too early to label him the next Fernando Martinez. I think this kid could end up being one of the biggest busts in Yankee history. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if it's because of the lack of confidence the organization has shown him, but what have you seen out of him? And then, add in another guy in Gary Sanchez. I mean, these are two guys.
Gary Sanchez in the same situation. He had one good year, and since then it's been not very good. And his defense, of course, is suspect. Kyle Higashioka has been getting more playing time, and deservedly so, because he's catching better and hitting.
Yeah, that's the main difference, I think, between Frazier and Sanchez is that Frazier and Frazier didn't get that vote of confidence from the beginning like Sanchez did. And it was baffling, and that could have something to do with it. Although you can look at it conversely and say, well, is this the reason why the Yankees didn't have faith in him? Because they knew that this was coming, and that they were kind of waiting and hoping that he would give them a reason to give them that opportunity. The good news for the Yankees is like AJ said, Higashioka. He's got an OPS over 1,000. As long as he's hitting like that, you have to play him over Sanchez because he's going to give you that good defense. Absolutely. And I think that's really helped the Yankees going forward. And also, don't forget, that the schedule gods have been kind to them. The Tigers had, I think, one batter in their lineup hitting over 220 today. And Corey Kluber took advantage of that, and he looked really good today. And I think if Corey Kluber keeps pitching like this, I think that's going to go a long way for the good health of the Yankees.
And Tyon looked good also in his outing.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And let's just see, though, when they start playing the better competition again, how it looks. So
it's the only one question I have to in terms of their line and Cashman. He sent Tauchman out of town, and they stick with Brett Gardner. What point do they have to tell Brett Gardner it's time to have a nice retirement ceremony, nasty retirement, and move on?
That's, you could say a lot of teams have that one veteran that they're not going to get rid of so quickly, especially a guy like Gardner, who's that last link to the 2009 championship team. He's been so good for them over the years. It's tough to have a conversation like that with a guy like that. But yeah, that's what made the Tauchman trade surprising, because now you don't have other options. If Frazier keeps sliding down, you don't have that option. If Gardner keeps sliding down, you don't have that option.
All right, John Coppinger, otherwise known as Donnie Stevenson, here each and every week with the Major League Baseball.
Here for your mental needs, everybody.
Right. And follow him on Twitter, Donnie Stevenson at Twitter. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, one of the 1986 American League champions, Rich Gedman and Erik Sherman, join us, so keep it tuned right here.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
If you're a company looking to increase your visibility, to make sure your promotional materials get packaged in the most attractive way and distributed most efficiently, then you need to call in PIMS. Whether you're launching a new product and need to assemble customized influencer packages, or looking for a more efficient way to manage your inventory and collateral, PIMS involvement helps maximize the impact of your brand's performance. For more than 30 years, PIMS has been helping companies get their message out to the right people, offering personalized distribution services and full-scale inventory management solutions. PIMS works its magic on 3 continents, backed by 350,000 square feet of warehouse space. If you're looking for experience, PIMS is it. They've shipped more than 13 million packages and elevated more than 8,000 brands. Want to know more? Check them out on the web, PIMSinc.com. That's PIMSINC.com, and read testimonials from their satisfied clients. That's PIMS, the first name in marketing support. And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. Joining us now is the pride of St. Peter Marian High School in Worcester, Massachusetts, where he played first base and pitched. He went undrafted in the 1977 Major League Baseball draft, was signed as a free agent by the Boston Red Sox. He went on to have a 13-year career in the major leagues, playing for the Red Sox, Astros, and St. Louis Cardinals. He currently serves as hitting coach with the AAA Pawtucket Red Sox of the International League. He is a 2-time All-Star as well as a member of the Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame. It is a pleasure to welcome Rich Gedman to Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great, and joining him on the phone is a longtime friend of the show who really needs no introduction, as I believe tonight he's actually passed Peter Golenbach's record as the most frequent author guest on our show. His latest book, Two Sides of Glory, the 1986 Boston Red Sox in Their Own Words, features 13 of what many consider one of the best Boston Red Sox team in history, revealing how much that season means to them all. All these years later, it's a thrill to welcome back our friend and favorite guest, Erik Sherman of Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Erik.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure.
So, Rich, before we get into the book, I just want to touch on some of your amazing career. We mentioned in the open how you went undrafted. On top of that, the Red Sox sent you to the instructional league to learn to play catcher, where you progressed steadily up through the major league, the minor league system. You take a look at the managers on the way up. Rax Slider, who was a second baseman in his career, Tony Torchia, who was a first baseman, Joe Morgan, who was a third baseman, shortstop, and first baseman. So every single infield position but catcher. So I guess the question is, who is the most influential person to you along the way up in your conversion to catcher?
I guess some of it was just they allowed me to catch. meaning you got to play, so it wasn't somebody watching over you saying you have to be doing this, you have to be doing that, which kind of makes it fun that way, because you don't know that you're doing something right or wrong sometimes, but it's okay. But as I went up the system, actually somebody who really made a big difference in my career was Mike Rourke. Okay. And then a player that I played with, and a lot of the players that I played with, But one of the guys in Boston that made a significant impact was Jeff Newman. We just took the time to talk about some of the little intricacies of exchange and what's the fastest way to get rid of the ball and things like that. And just talking about how to break the glove even. So Mike Rourke talked about balance in the catcher stance and the ability to move left, right, up and down. And Jeff Newman talked a lot about the exchange and breaking in the glove.
It's also interesting.
And then I learned from the pitches to tell the truth.
So it's also interesting, if you look at that 1977 draft, the fact that there were 81 catchers taken in that draft, of which only 9 of those 81 made it to the majors. And of those 9, only the 6th pick overall, Terry Kennedy, played more games in the major leagues at catcher than you. Considering you were undrafted and weren't a catcher, when you hear that, what's the first thought that comes to your mind?
I really don't think about it much. Because if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't even pay attention. And I'm not trying to be wise, honestly and truly. And I'm not trying to be naive either. I think it's a really special feat for an undrafted kid to get to the big leagues. I think it was probably a lot easier back then than it is now. But some of it is opportunity and the gracious opportunity that was given to me. And obviously the opportunity to play. And so that's probably the biggest thing. It's like they had open minds. They had wonderful advice and they had tremendous patience. It was a time when a young player like me, who ended up getting to the big leagues before his 21st birthday, some of it out of need or necessity for the club, but most of it about the patience that they had, like I said, taking the chance on a kid and giving him an opportunity. So, I was learning still when I was in the major leagues. And I'm not sure by the time I became a finished product, I went downhill instead of uphill, to tell you the truth.
You're the anti-Jacob deGrom, I guess, right? So, along your climb up the minor league ladder, you're part of the longest professional baseball game in history. You caught the first 9 innings of the 33-inning game between the Red Sox and Rochester Red Wings. I know that AJ has some questions about that.
Question, first of all, you caught the first 9 innings, but became a 33-inning game. Why did you come out of the game, and where did you go after that? Were you on the bench, or did you watch the rest of the game? The other, I guess, 32 innings before it got postponed for a month. What happened? Where were you watching the rest of the game? What were you thinking as that game kept on going on and on and on?
Well, I'm not sure you want to hear the real truth, because let's face it. When it starts to get into the 20 10 innings or 11 innings, you're not real happy that you're still not in there, because there's nothing you can do except for catch people in the bullpen, and that seemed like once every hour, which made it very difficult to focus and concentrate. You're just hoping to get it over with, to tell you the truth. And I think part of the reason where you have 2 teams that are trying to end the game with one swing with the wind blowing in, and pitchers who seem like they've hit some of their best innings in that game, believe it or not. But like I said, it started at 7, didn't end till like 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's just a guess. It's been a long time. And part of the reason why I didn't play was I got pitch hit for in the 9th inning, the bottom of the 9th inning. They brought on a lefty with a guy in scoring position, and so I was resigned to the bench, and then I just did whatever I could to stay warm and help out wherever I was needed. It wasn't the day where we had 3 catchers or 4 catchers. It was the day that you have 2 and one caught in the bullpen and the other one played, and vice versa.
So 2 other quick things before we move on. One, in terms of stay warm, I read some reports that players actually burned broken bats in the dugout to stay warm. Did that actually?
There was a bunch of them.
and the other thing.
Yes, that did happen. That's a true story.
And the other thing was there was a game actually at 11 o'clock the next morning. So how hard was it to come back and be at the ballpark for that 11 o'clock game the next morning?
Again, you don't really think about it much. It's like, here's where you got to be. I think we had to be at the field at 11. I think the game was probably 12 o'clock or 1 would make sense. I think it was Easter Sunday. So we had to be at the park, I think, at 11.
Amazing. So, one of the things you reveal in Erik's great book, Two Sides of Glory, the 1986 Boston Red Sox, in their own words, is how playing for the Red Sox and playing at Fenway was like Disneyland due to the fact that you grew up a Red Sox fan. You mentioned the players you idolized, the ones that you would imitate in your backyard. And the first two names that you mentioned in consecutive order are Carl Yastrzemski and Carlton Fisk. So I'm wondering what it's like to make your Major League debut hitting for one of your idols. And then in your second season, you are now the primary catcher for the Red Sox following an 11-year run by Carlton Fisk.
Well, it's very difficult to answer compound questions because I'm pretty simple-minded when it comes to that stuff. So you have to remind me of the second one after I get through with the first, okay?
Okay, you got it.
Carl Yastrzemski, number one. I mean, I wasn't really a big idol guy, but he was like my favorite guy. I mean, the 67 team, I was 8 years old, and I mean, he just was incredible, and they built him up to be such a special player and win the Triple Crown. That stuff doesn't happen. And I mean, if it wasn't for somebody as special as Ted Williams being in the Boston organization, then Yastrzemski is the greatest player of all time that wore a Boston uniform. So to actually get a chance to play with him was wonderful, but I think there was so many other things that happened for me because of him. My first at bat in the big leagues, the people say that I pitch hit for Carl Yastrzemski. I think Carl Yastrzemski wanted it that way. He had his injured, he had a back issue, and I think when he decided that he wasn't going to be able to play, I think he told the manager, said, listen, why don't you let the kid pitch yet, or let the kid play today? And lo and behold, the manager gave me an opportunity to come in and, think about it. The first at bat in the big leagues or the major leagues, you get to hit for what is your childhood idol and somebody that you looked up to so tremendously that actually he had something to do with you actually getting to the plate. So I've always had fond memories of him because I got to play with him 3 years after that, and he was a wonderful supporter and just a great baseball player. But not only that, he was a wonderful man.
And I hate to break it to you. I mean, I'm going to throw some shade on Massachusetts because that's what New Yorkers do. I mean, he's such a great guy because he's from Long Island. Had he been from Worcester, maybe he wouldn't have let you pinch hit. But just got to throw that in there. Sorry.
No, okay, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. If you're selling it, I'll buy it for today.
So
or at least for the next couple minutes.
So what about replacing another one of your idols the following season as a primary catcher after idolizing Carlton Fisk for all those years?
Well, the neat thing about Fisk was he had a tremendous work ethic and just the way he could grab hold of the game. I mean, 75 World Series, he was instrumental in that team getting there and certainly having a good chance to win. And nobody will ever forget the big home run that he got. But one of the things that I thought about is he demanded attention. He made people focus, and what a tremendous competitor. But the one thing I always remind people when people say, "Oh, geez, you came in after him," I was not the guy that was supposed to be. The guy before me for a brief period of time was Gary Allenson, and Gary Allenson previously was the International League MVP. There's your guy that's going to be the Red Sox catcher. Dave Schmidt, who was in AAA with me, he and Gary Allenson are the Red Sox catchers in 1981. One of them or both of them got hurt, and I got called up in early May. And what ends up happening is I didn't really start off very well, but they were patient with me. I was hitting. I can remember in Yankee Stadium, I was 1 for 17, and it's very humbling when you look up on that big scoreboard and your batting average is 0.59, and somebody says, "You can't even hit your batting average." And I'm going, "I don't know if 3 hits will get me there." You know what I mean? Holy cow! So, anyways, push comes to shove. I got an opportunity to be like a platoon type catcher, and it wasn't until 1984, which was three years removed, that actually was technically the number one catcher. So,
It's interesting because Two Sides of Glory could also be a chapter just about your individual 1986 as you experience some of the highlights of your career. You're the battery mate for Roger Clemens on April 29th when he strikes out 20 batters in a game against the Mariners. That sets a Major League single game strikeout record in 9-inning game, and your 20 putouts of the game set the American League record. The next day, you have 16 more for a total of 36 in 2 days, which is the most for a catcher in 2 consecutive days. You're selected to an All-Star game for the second time in 2 years. You win as a member of the Red Sox, the American League East, beating out your hated rival, the New York Yankees, on top of it. You win the ALCS in dramatic fashion to make the World Series. Looking back on 86 prior to the World Series, which of those moments is the one that you look back on with the most pride?
I'm not really a prideful guy. I think outwardly, I think I was. The game has a funny way of humbling you. So I look back in awe sometimes of some of the things that you're talking about. The neat part, I still look at. I got a chance to play in the major leagues. I'm a kid from Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm not supposed to get there, so I experienced some things that are not realistic to most people. To sit there and have individual things, I did some of those things. They did happen. I was part of that. It wasn't usually because of me. It was usually because of somebody else. And the special games of Roger and Ersky, to be a part of those, to be their battery mate, if you will. Okay, my ego gets involved once in a while when I sit there and I say, well, if you really think about it, I remember catching Roger that year when he thought I was good. So, it's kind of funny because, he had a wonderful career, but during that period of time, I was the leader of the pitching staff, not the young pitchers that were on that team. And I'm not saying it was me only. I got help from the bench from Renee Latchman, who was a manager with Seattle, who had an awful lot of stats about different teams and how they were pitching them. And so the scouting reports were well advanced for things that I had the opportunity to have before. And so it was a wonderful relationship that the pitching staff and I had, but it wasn't anything individual. It was always their credit when they won, and I tried to make sure that they didn't get hammered when we lost.
It's interesting. A few questions back, you mentioned Carlton Fisk's iconic home run, and it's funny. And obviously, you will remember this because you grew up a Red Sox fan. But Carlton Fisk's home run never happens without Bernie Carbo.
Right.
A lot of people forget that Bernie Carbo hit the 3-run homer, pinch hit home run to tie it up that led to the home run. And a lot of Red Sox fans, remember for sure Dave Henderson's and Don Baylor's home run, but you had a really amazing day that day as well. Getting on base all 5 times. You were actually the tying run on Henderson's home run. And the Hindus gets the winning run. But what do you remember about that game? And it's funny because without you, that comeback never really happens.
Well, there's no doubt that it was a good day. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it wasn't. But it was more what we were trying to do as a group. It was said that after we lost, we just got to find a way to get it back home. And believe it or not, I was just looking in the media guide for 2021 and was going through the scores of the games in California and then going on to looking at the World Series games of 1986 and just remembering that, wow, I forgot that we scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to go up 6-5, and then for them to come back and tie it and then turn around and score 2 innings later to end up winning. I believe it was 6-5 or 7-6 or something like that. But our goal was to get it home. And for some reason, it was, if we got it home, boys, they're not going to beat us. There's no way they can come across country and beat us in our home park twice. And it was incredible because, the following game, I think it was 13-1 or something like that, or 13-2. And then the last game was 8-1. And our big guys stepped up, Rice and Everson homers in that game 7. And we kind of cruised on to the win. I mean, it was incredible stuff. Just I often I'll chuckle sometimes when people talk about Dave Henderson, and I remember him so vivid, doing some great things in the playoffs. And I reminded him that I was his caddy, that I set everything up for him. And he just kind of would laugh with that beautiful smile that he had, And he was a person that grabbed hold of moments, and he certainly became endeared to Boston fans, certainly during that playoff run.
So for those people that are just tuning in, we have Rich Gedman and Erik Sherman. And if you haven't heard me ask a question to Erik yet, it's not because I'm just totally ignoring him. If you are a fan of the show, Erik was on last week and we spoke in detail. But I did want to ask Erik, along with this interview, because I had a question I wanted to ask him, because I felt in reading Rich's chapter in particular that, in some respects, not only could you have gotten royalties on the book, but I think you might have been able to charge Rich $125 to $150 an hour, because it seemed it was very therapeutic for Rich. And the one thing that really struck me, all right, and it really blew me away, and I want to ask you directly about this, Erik. At the end of the interview, Rich actually thanked you that day, saying that you probably helped him to become a better coach that day, in the way that that you guys talked and everything. When you hear a subject, a Major League Baseball player, a coach, what's the first thing that comes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, you don't hear it very often, but I will say this. So this is my 7th book, and 5 of those books I've been the co-author, and you get so close to the subjects. For some reason, the players that I interview, they're very comfortable in talking to me. Maybe it's because I'm a good listener, or because I know what the heck I'm talking about. I don't know what it is, but I really have this ability to get these guys to open up. With Rich, I couldn't wait to interview him. I was so looking forward to it. I knew it would go great. And I'll tell you why. Everyone says, well, you're going to talk to Clemens and Boggs and Rice and Evans, either the Hall of Famers or, guys that maybe should be in the Hall of Fame but aren't. But with Rich, you're talking about a guy that, he was a Boston area guy, grew up with the near misses of 67 and 75 and 78, as a fan of the team, someone that really got it. They understood what it meant to be a New Englander and a Red Sox fan. And now, he had the chance to be a part of that team to end the 68-year drought. And I knew it would be emotional for him. How couldn't it be? Rich, his entire life, grew up, bleeding Red Sox red. So that's what I was really looking forward to. I knew it would be emotional. He's still part of the organization today, and there isn't anybody that I know that's more a Red Sox than Rich Gedman. So, of course, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows within that 2-week period. And what you alluded to earlier, Mark, Rich went 4 for 4 in Game 5, which was easily the greatest victory that the Red Sox had since Game 6 of the 75 World Series. Right. And the other Red Sox couldn't touch Mike Witt that day. And Gedman goes 4 for 4. They bring in Lucas, and he hits Gedman with a pitch. And then they bring in Donnie Moore, and the rest is history with Henderson's home run. But to answer your question again, I'm to a lot of these athletes that I interview and do books with, I am their psychologist, their priest, their best friend. And they tell me things that they don't even tell their wives a lot of times. So I can't explain it, other than the fact that I think that they sense that I really care and that they trust me. that I'm going to tell the story the right way. And I think that's the biggest reason why I've been able to continue writing these books, because I think word gets around that I'm going to do the right thing by these guys.
Absolutely. It comes across. Rich, I have one question not related to the book. It's related to a different book. Ron Darling raised a lot of eyebrows here with his 108 Stitches, Loose Threads, Ripping Yarns, and the darndest characters from my time in the game. According to him, he felt that the World Series turned because of Lenny Dykstra being on deck and uttering the most vile things to Oil Cam Boyd. You were the closest person to that on-deck circle. Did you hear anything, or is there anything to that story from your point of view?
If I heard it, I would have known. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that I heard it because I didn't hear it. Because I actually know Lenny, and we actually played on the same team in Venezuela together. And he knows that I wouldn't put up with that. I never heard him say anything. I'm not saying, again, I think it's the same thing with the John McNamara, Roger Clemens thing, where if I would have saw that, you can attest to it. So what you do is you usually have someone's opinion. I did not hear Lenny say that stuff, because I would have been pretty upset if I did.
Yeah.
Oil Can's a pretty special guy, let me tell you.
Right, absolutely.
And, that would have bothered me.
Yeah, and listen, and if Oil did hear it, listen, I think he faced Lenny 24 more times in his career, and there was never a brushback. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your take on it. Listen, guys, thank you.
I'm not saying that's not true.
No, I know. Right, I agree. I mean,
there's one other thing, if I could quickly just say about Erik, that you were wondering what makes him so special. It's like he talked about stuff that only the players that were there would know. And so therefore you knew that he did his work, he did his homework, he did his due diligence, and he knew it as well as the players that played it. That's how you can open up to somebody. There's a trust made there because somebody took the time to really have a feel of it.
Yeah,
and certainly looked at it in the right perspective.
Yeah, and it comes across in every one of Erik's book, and that's why. Listen, Peter Golenbach's a very special person to us, but tonight Erik has supplanted him for the most appearances by an author on Sports Talk New York in the 15-year history. Guys, thank you so much for your time tonight. Rich, thanks so much for enforcing how good Long Island guys are to people from Massachusetts. And everyone, go pick up the book. It is an absolute amazing read, as is every book by Erik Sherman. Erik, thanks for your time as well tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
You got to have a great night. Stay safe, everybody. All right, we're not going to take a quick break. I'm going to read the Soho Table Hockey Live. This is one of AJ's favorite parts of the show. It's time for the NHL Report with Russ Cohn, sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey? AJ, what's table hockey, you ask?
Hey, what's table hockey, Mark?
Some of us, this is like, I feel like it's the Seder. Are you the simple son or are you the naive son? All right. Some of us might have grown up rock hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey tables. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of all of those tabletop games and designed a whole new board for the future. Handcrafted designer wood, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbing walls. That is very difficult to say on a weekly basis.
Energy-absorbing walls.
That's
energy-absorbing walls.
That's pretty good.
Want me to do the read next week?
Maybe. This is a table hockey game that players age 8 to 80 can enjoy, so you can enjoy it, AJ. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Visit Soho Table Hockey to learn more and start your order on a custom game. You can choose your wood, a center ice logo, and even the team matchups. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love Soho Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. So subbing for Russ Cohn tonight is the very capable Mike Capice, and he's also
could be Dave Stevenson.
He could be, Donnie Stevenson
Donnie
as well.
Stevenson, rather. Yeah.
He's doing double duty, the board op as well as the hockey. All right, so
those of you watching here, Mike actually had to leave the room and come back.
Well, he's a different persona. He got set up. He got himself psyched up. All right. So, quick question: We both watched the Ranger the last two games against the Islanders. The Islanders clinched their playoff spot against the New York Rangers, and somehow stuff like that always happens. Either one in history. A lot of times, the other team will stop a streak, or they're always part of meaningful.
And some of us
games.
really like the results of those last two games, Mark.
Yeah, no question about it. So, I mean, watching that in some respects, Mike, does it kind of show how far away the Rangers really are? Or was it just a matter of how, the inexperience is still raw and they still haven't learned how to win these type games?
I don't think it really shows like how far away they are, because I do think they will be contenders within the next 2 years. I think it more showed about how well the Islanders are coached, how structured they are, and how well literally every single line works for them. DQ always raves about their fourth line, and they played a huge part. They were hitting everyone. No one pushed back. Right.
That is a problem. And that's the other thing. Ryan Strome in the postgame talked about their defensive structure, and he did also allude to the fact that, hey, the Rangers are not that type of team. They're not built that way. They are more offensive. But then Ryan Strome did also say that we need to take part of their game. And I think part of that is I think the Islanders have the ability to adjust to who they're playing. If they are playing a team that is extremely, offensive minded, they will play rope-a-dope. They will make sure that they don't give up any odd-man rushes. They don't give you anything and hope to capitalize on a mistake and win a game 1-0.
I mean, you look at them on Panarin. Panarin, I don't think he had a shot in the 2 games that they played.
Invisible.
Well,
exactly. They marked the wall.
That's game planning and coaching.
Right.
You see the difference.
Well, yes,
with the Islanders, what
it's
coaching
also,
did.
Well,
it's
also
general
personnel.
managers, it's personnel,
Right.
and it's how the personnel is coached.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to translate to a cup winner, because yes, you can win games in the regular season, totally shutting down, offenses. But when you get to the playoffs and you get that grind and you can't score, like when they played against Washington, they were the Capitals Islander, and then they have a guy like Ovechkin and other scorers. That's the problem. The Islanders try to address that with Zajac. I guess
the next thing you wanted to talk about, where you get to a Travis Zajac coming in the playoffs. They haven't really used him yet.
I don't think he's going to make it all. I think he's going to be scratched. I think
the injury sub.
I think the Devils were. I think as much as they wanted, Palmieri, just space for a second. Yeah. As much as they wanted Palmieri, I think the Devils knew that and said, you know what? It's a package deal. You got to take Zajac too. I think Lou liked Zajac back in the day. I think when he got here, realized that, he's
not the
slow.
Same player.
He's okay on faceoffs, but if he loses a faceoff, he's incredibly slow and he can't help.
And I think for the Islanders, it's either scratch Josh Bailey or Oliver Wahlstrom or play Travis Zajac. Right. And I think anyone's going to take the two over at this point.
So quickly before we end this segment, Mike, you take a look at the teams that are on the outside looking in, the Stars, Coyotes, Flames. Very few games left. Do you think any of those guys have a shot? Of those, I think the only one that has a legitimate shot is Dallas, and I think it's almost nil.
Yeah, I mean, unless Arizona pulls off something crazy and the Blues start losing, which they haven't been lately, right. I can see Dallas squeaking in another maybe, but I don't know. I think the playoffs are pretty much set right now.
All right, quick commercial break on the other side. The moment you've all been waiting for, Sunday Papers with AJ Carter. So keep it tuned right here to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network.
Decolator Cohen and DeFrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
Joe Jackson can only mean one thing. It's time for AJ's Sunday Papers. What do you got for us, AJ?
Well, I don't usually like Guinness Book of World Records. Most peanut butter and jelly sandwiches made in a 24-hour period and things like that. But there are two this week that have really good sports angles and they're worth talking about. The first one is out of England. An English professional golfer named Marcus Armitage broke the record for hitting a golf ball into a moving car. Hit it with 303 yards. He did it on an airport runway. It took multiple attempts, including one that broke the vehicle's windshield. Before he and his driver successfully, they got a 303-yard drive into the window of a moving car, which only sets us up for the one that happened.
Wait a minute. Isn't that what Tiger Woods does every day he drives? Oh.
No, that's the car that hits,
that's right.
well, that's
The car goes in the rough. I'm sorry.
We have to look at the golf ball, not what happens to the car.
The car goes in the rough, not the ball into the car.
Right.
Sorry. All right.
Right. And the next one actually
Too
happened.
soon? No, I don't think so.
So this one actually happened recently at Arizona State University, and it involved Rob Gronkowski and his alma mater, and he broke the record for catching a football dropped from a helicopter 600 feet up. It took him 3 tries, and luckily nobody got hurt. Those of you who remember your physics, an object accelerates at the rate of 32 feet per second, and you do the math and see how quickly, and the force and all that. They say, you can kill somebody if you drop like a paperclip off the top of the Empire State Building. Right. But this is 600 feet. He actually caught it on the 3rd try. And he said, every time you step in the field, you've got to raise the bar to another level. And I just raised the bar to that level.
It's like catching a pass from Tom Brady. All right, AJ, take us away with the NBA report with Chaim Tauber.
Chaim, how are you doing this week?
Not bad, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about today's Nets game. And it was really a Nets-Bucks, and it was a showcase for the Greek Freak and for Kevin Durant. Nets prevailed by what? By 3 points. What's your takeaway from that game? What it means looking ahead to the playoffs?
Well, I mean, this is a matchup that seems like they're on a collision course. There are very few teams that can really, with the exception of maybe Philadelphia, there are very few teams that can get on the way. And it's almost an inevitability that these two teams are going to collide. It's also tough to gauge because what the NBA season has showed us the last couple of years, pretty much ever since load management has become in vogue, but particularly this Nets team, is that the regular season isn't all that important. It's a fun matchup, and it used to matter a lot, but the Nets haven't been at full strength ever.
Right.
Ever. What they're going to be comes postseason and how the matchups are going to look, I expect to be completely different than what we saw this afternoon. Kevin Durant could pretty much step on a court ice cold and put up 30. That much he's proven time and time again. James Harden, since he's gotten to Brooklyn, I should say, has been able to make his game work and fit with everybody else. And Kyrie Irving, when he feels like playing, when he's healthy enough to play, the 3 of them are dynamic. It's just the 3 of them never play. What you saw today, it's a nice way to kind of start stoking the fires in terms of a potential playoff series, but I don't expect it to have a whole lot of impact in terms of what we see comes postseason.
Well, you talk about the injuries to the Nets, and it's unclear whether Harden will be back for any of the regular season. There are 9 games left in the regular season. Do they need to get 2-3 games together, or do you think they can do it all in practice waiting for the playoffs to gel finally?
I mean, and that's the question. And it's a really good one, AJ. I'm not sure. We've seen any combination of those. I'd like to think that they're going to be able to just seamlessly pull this off. I think James Harden is the key. He's the glue guy. From the way his game evolved and adapted to being the floor general, to being able to move the ball once he got here, instead of being the alpha ISO, ball dominant, Kyrie Irving was happy to defer ball handling duties over to Harden, and the offense flowed. Joe Harris is getting open looks. He's finding people in spots that they weren't really seeing before, or at least not with this frequency. I think, and I don't know if it's a good thing for basketball or not, but I think that these guys with virtually no practice can pretty much do what they've done. Say, damn the regular season, and comes playoff time, we'll figure it out.
That really, I don't think it's a good thing. Let's look at the other borough in town and the other team, and that's the Knicks. They're on a road trip now. It's a 6-game trip with 9 games left in the season. They get close to a gimme tonight against Houston, but then it gets a little tougher. How many of the 6 games do you think they have to win on the trip to preserve their playoff seeding and to go into the playoffs in a good thing, given that everything is so close between the 4th seed and the 8th seed?
And it's tough too because Boston's clicking at just the right time. They've been hot. I think that they might have to come away winning 4 of 6, and I don't think that they're capable of doing that, to be perfectly frank. I do expect them to come away with 2 of them. 3, I think you're playing the cards. You're hoping that other teams help you out a little bit, that Boston stumbles, but they've been red hot. Jason Tatum obviously doing what he did the other night, and they've been getting consistently better for weeks now. They're coming on strong. I think the Knicks have to take 4 of 6, and I don't think they can.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens next week. They'll be probably halfway through that 6. Chaim Tauber, our NBA correspondent extraordinaire, and we'll be back and talk NFL draft after this word from who do we have it now? Nikolai Cohen-DePrisco.
Decolator Cohen and DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. Don't forget to keep it tuned right here all night long. BT Talks Baseball, Interlocking NY's, Met Clubhouse Confidential, Sarcastic Remarks, a great night of entertainment on tap on the 365 Sportscast Network. Also, if you have not done so already, make sure you either download the iPhone, Android, or Alexa app. So many ways to listen to us, so there's no excuse. All right, it's time now for the Capco NFL Report with Jay Retcher. Even though it's spring, summer will be here before you know it. It feels like it right now. It's 82 degrees outside. Now's the time to get your windows and doors ready to let the fresh air in and the bugs out with a Clearview retractable screen. The Clearview retractable screen system comes with standard with a lifetime warranty and the patented speed reducer so it will not snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door and a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky storm door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for a free estimate. That's 631-440-1100 or visit them on the web at clearviewlongisland.com. You know, the interesting thing is, Jay, and I think this is where we want to start. AJ and I were talking before the show. If you have a GM that drafted a quarterback, but then every subsequent move after that was a pick to basically bolster that quarterback. You take a look at the Jets selection. Zach Wilson, number 1. In the first round, the 14th pick, you get your outside tackle.
Trade up to get the outside tackle.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
Trade up.
And because this is the guy you want, Elijah or Tucker. Then they go with Elijah Moore, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, which is, you've heard some mixed stuff about him, but this is the one I think.
But they were high-fiving when they got that.
But there's been a lot of mixed reports on him. But the guy I love in the 4th round, and AJ says they're not sure which Michael Carter they got because they picked another one after that.
That's it. Yeah, they want to be sure they didn't know which one they got, so they drafted these both.
So the running back from North Carolina, I think, might be the sleeper pick for the Jets. How would you grade the Jets draft? Do you think it's a good strategy for them to pick all these guys to support their newly minted, franchise quarterback?
Well, what I do know for sure is that Sam Darnold's looking at them going, hey, what the heck, man?
That's what we're saying.
I love it. I think what they did to move up to get Vera Tucker was big. I like all their moves. I don't think Jets fans could look at the draft and not be happy. I mean, they did a little bit of everything. They got a couple skill guys. They fortified the line a little bit to go with the Mekhi Becton pick last year. And then you get your guy in Zach Wilson. So, yeah, I think all the picks, I mean, they did a really good thing. It was I know a lot of my friends that are Jets fans, they go, it was a very un-Jets-like draft because there weren't many decisions that you looked at and go, that same old Jets. I think they had a solid outing over the last couple of days.
Yeah, they've been on the right road. Listen, their pick for their coach, everything so far.
Well, on paper, right.
But they are the Jets, so we don't know.
Jets. Something's going to happen. There's going to be something out of their control that's going to just turn everything around. So let's turn to the Giants and talk about an un-Jets-like draft. This was an un-Giants-like draft because for the first time, Dave Gettleman traded down. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Does it show did he do it just to prove he could do it? I mean, what do you make of him trading down?
I was very fortunate that they picked a guy like Kadarius Toney, who I've watched a lot living down here in Florida. And it was just like, oh my gosh, Florida-New York connection once again. But yeah, not only to trade down once, but to trade down twice.
Yeah.
I love the pick of the Aziz out of Georgia. Thought that was a really smart move. I still think that they probably should have drafted a couple of more guys on the outside to rush. I mean, they have like 19 freaking cornerbacks now. It's got a crazy. But I do love the kid that they picked out of UCF. I do some work with USF here in Tampa, so I've seen him firsthand. That kid can absolutely ball. He's tough. He's physical. Don't be surprised if he's the guy that's going to get a lot of playing time coming up this season. But yeah, other than not picking a little bit more of edge rushers in the kind of 3 through 7. That's the only kind of head-scratching thing there, but I thought they did a good job as well.
So this is a quarterback first round, and you take a look, there are two that jump at you. First of all is the Bears trading up so they can draft Justin Fields, and then on pick number 15, the Patriots pick Mac Jones. Is he their quarterback of the future?
But before you even get that, I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot about this, all right? And I don't know if either one of you just picked it up.
Yeah.
On the ESPN coverage of the draft, talking about quarterbacks, they showed a clip. They said, when picking a quarterback, one can, make your franchise. And they showed a picture of, wow, why am I spacing over? I can't think of names tonight. No, that was the flip. And then they said another one will saddle your franchise forever. And they showed Trubisky. Like, oh my God. Like, what? Like ESPN, like, ouch. Like, really?
They let him have it.
Yeah, the other one was Pat. They showed Pat Mahomes, and then they went to Trubisky. I mean, that was cold. All right, finish AJ. Answer AJ's question, though.
Well, I mean, I look at those two quarterbacks, and really, I have no issues with either one of them. I like Chicago going up and getting Justin Fields. When they put out that tweet going QB1 Andy Dalton, I mean, come on, man. Really? I mean, you have people around the world going, come on, you really think Andy Dalton is going to lead you to the promised land? And everybody thinks Chicago had a tough – they made the playoffs last year. People forget. Yeah. So they're not all far off. They have a stud – defender in Khalil Mack. There's some other really good players. I love their linebacking core with Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan. They have Montgomery. They bring back Allen Robinson. I know we thought that he possibly could have gone to the Jets. I like the trade up for Justin Fields, and I like Mac Jones because you don't have to play either one of those guys right away. You can have Andy Dalton play some in Chicago. You'd have Cam play in New England. The only head-scratching move out of the quarterbacks to me was Trey Lance going to San Francisco. I think that's a really bold move, and if that doesn't work out, I think it might cost John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan their jobs.
Another quick question. Okay, so I think the Jets are similar to the New York Rangers. I think they're in a rebuilding mode, and they're going to invest time in the kids. But you know what? It's always good to have a veteran quarterback mentor your young quarterback. There's a guy who wants out of a situation who is probably built for New York. What would it take to get Aaron Rodgers here for 1 or 2 years?
Too much.
Aaron Rodgers, hey, man, he might find the fountain of youth like Tom Brady.
Yeah, right.
You mean Turd Ferguson?
Yeah, Turd Ferguson, exactly.
Yeah, right. See, the thing with Aaron Rodgers is he's going to cost you multiple first-round picks. I mean, I know you can't look at the age with a guy like that. If anything, when you're trying to acquire somebody like Aaron Rodgers, what has happened with Tom Brady in the last couple of years? Sorry about the motorcycle there. With what's happened with Tom Brady, it's almost made Aaron Rodgers and a lot of these older quarterbacks. Well, why can't you play a couple more years? So I think it drives his value up rather than drives his value down. I don't see that happen.
All right. Next, if he does come here, we'll have to get State Farm or what is it? He's State Farm,
State
right?
Farm.
Yeah,
State Farm. Yeah, discount double check.
Exactly. All right, Jay. Have a great night and stay away from that motorcycle.
Brother, you guys be good. Take care.
You got Jay Retcher here each and every week with the Capco Major League NFL report. Good show. Keep it tuned right here. BT motorcycle from Florida just passed by here. BT Talks
That's a
Baseball.
fast-moving motorcycle.
It absolutely is. BT Talks Baseball up next week. Rick Vive, and the week after that, Anthony Scaramucci. Make sure you pencil those 2 dates in on your calendar and listen to us and look on the website. There will be archived this show playing during the week. Have a great one, everyone. Most importantly, stay safe.